All right, so my name is Rajat. I'm the founder and chief product officer at Bunchball, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about gamification. Really, first, if you haven't heard about my company, I started in 2005. In 2007, we created this industry, and we've been working in it ever since. Now, what is gamification? So here's the question. It's kind of a double-edged sword of the word, and you're going to hear people use it in a number of different ways. And it's got the word game in it, and that often makes people think of unproductivity and play, and that's exactly what this is not about. So games, if you think about it, you start with a blank sheet of paper, and your whole purpose is to create something which is to entertain. And that's not what gamification is about. Gamification is about driving business results. Now, it came out of the world of video games, because if you think about it, it makes complete and total sense. From the 1970s, when Pong came out, to Call of Duty now, video game designers have always lived in a world where they had every piece of user activity data available to them. They knew every single thing you do. You moved the paddle up, you hit the joystick, you shot somebody, you leveled up, all that kind of stuff. And so over the last 40 years, they have honed and refined the techniques for taking that data and using it to motivate better performance. So now what's happened to us in the real world? Pretty much everything we're doing is being mediated by technology. We've all turned into walking data generators, right? Whether we're doing Facebook or whether we're putting stuff into Salesforce, collaborating in a customer community, or doing our finances online on Capital One, right? Where every single thing we're doing is throwing off data. We're now living in this data-rich environment that mirrors that of the world of video games. So if you're looking at that environment and you're a business and you're saying, how do I take that data that is now being thrown off, and how do I utilize it to motivate my customers, my employees, my partners, whoever, to perform better? Where are you going to look? You're going to look to the world of video games, where they've had 40 years of experience at doing this, and they've honed and refined these techniques. So when we talk about gamification, other phrases we often use to describe it: measure and motivate, reward and recognize, reputation, loyalty, guiding and amplifying high-value activity. And at the end of the day, all these things boil down to motivating people through data. One way you can do that is just show it to people, like many of you I'm sure have tried Mint, or there's an app called Rescue Time you can download on your computer. It tells you how much time you're wasting on Facebook and stuff. And just by showing it to you, that can affect behavior change, right? I'm spending this much on coffee every month, spending this much time playing Plants vs. Zombies, like I should be doing something else, right? The second thing is you give people goals around that data. You give them a reward for hitting certain milestones. You give them really fast feedback to let them know when they're doing good or when they're doing poorly. And you give them a community of people to compete and collaborate and share with. That's what gamification is. So actually, we just wrote a book on this topic, and actually today is the publication day, called Loyalty 3.0, and the basic premise is that we're now living in this world where we have all this data. We're all walking data generators. You combine that with the latest understanding of human motivation, and then these data-driven motivational techniques from video games, and all put together, you've got a really powerful engine for motivating, for driving engagement, participation, and true loyalty amongst your customers. And so kind of the relevance to this audience is going to be around, like, how do I take that and get data, right, from this audience? So the 10 gamification mechanics that we've extracted from the world of video games: fast feedback. You know immediately in a game whether you're doing well or whether you're dead, right? And that helps you adjust your strategy and evolve accordingly. Transparency. You know exactly where you stand at any point in time. You have your statistics right now, over time, individually, and as an entire group. Goals, giving people something to work towards. Most experiences have no towards. You're just there, you're doing, but you're not going anywhere, you're not accomplishing anything, you're not achieving anything, right? So give them a purpose, something to work towards. Badges as a way of indicating expertise and achievement in a community, right? That I've accomplished something, I've hit a milestone, or I have a certain knowledge that nobody else has that I can show off to people. It's my reputation. And tying into that, you've got levels, right? Whether I'm Premier Exec or Premier 1K on United, or whether I'm level 70 in World of Warcraft, my level tells everybody else something. I have contributed a certain amount of time or energy or expertise to this community, and therefore I have that status conferred upon me and maybe even extra power or abilities in this community. Onboarding. Games are incredibly good at teaching complex concepts without making you go through a training course or reading a manual, right? If you opened up Farmville and all you saw was a brown plot of dirt, how many people would be playing Farmville? But that's not what they do. Farmer Pete comes out and he says, click here to pick up the strawberries, click here to plant them. I'm going to fast forward the clock 4 hours so you don't have to wait. Now click here to harvest them. And in 5 minutes, you've learned how to play Farmville by playing Farmville, right? So if you're trying to teach anybody onboard them onto a process or a complex idea or piece of software or anything, you can use the techniques from video games. Competition, collaboration, community. We're all inherently social creatures. We want to compete. We want to work together. We want to share everything that we've done. And then points as a way of keeping score, and then potentially also having a currency that I can spend on something that's of meaningful value to me. So if you're looking at the kind of companies using this, they're using it in a number of different ways for employee motivation, to drive sales, service, training, collaboration, compliance with company policies, but then people are also using it for consumer motivation. And this is around marketing campaigns, around loyalty programs, around driving conversion from free trial to paid, and it's around community sites or fans of TV shows, like anywhere where there are people to be motivated to do whatever high-value activity you want, you can use gamification. So I picked 3 quick case studies, and maybe if I have time, I'll do a 4th. And I didn't really know, out of hundreds of case studies, what to pick. So I actually looked at some of the themes from tomorrow's innovation competition and just pulled out 3 and then pulled up some customers I thought reflected those well. So Warner Brothers Insider Rewards. Warner Brothers had never had a loyalty program, and they wanted one that didn't just reward points for purchase, but also rewarded online activity, that rewarded watching trailers, rating movies, sharing to the social networks, providing data about yourself to them so that they could market to you with much more specificity. So they built a 2-tier loyalty program. The first is points, pretty typical. Buy DVDs, get more DVDs. And then credits. I earned credits for online activity, all that attention that I was providing to them, the sharing to the networks, the rating, the providing of data. And then the reward for that stuff was Warner Brothers digital content. MP3s, wallpapers, ringtones, things that cost them nothing to fulfill, but that people wanted. So by implementing this kind of program, these guys were able to not only track and reward online activity and engagement, any kind of behavior online that they wanted, they were able to measure which activities and content on their sites were most viral and most compelling. They had a warm audience for new marketing campaigns, all these people that had signed up and registered and they had all this data on that they could then target. They had a currency that they could use to direct the audience between various properties. You're on the Harry Potter site. They could say, look, you get 100 credits if you go to the Where the Wild Things Are site. They had a currency that could be traded for data, right? Whenever a site asks me for any kind of extended information, like my zip code or something, I'm always like, forget it. Like, why would I bother? What benefit do I get out of it? But now they have a currency that they can use to trade, and it becomes a fair value exchange. I'm getting something, they're getting something. And they could do this on kind of an ongoing basis. Every day, here's the question of the day, and here's your reward for doing that. And then a 360-degree view of the customer. They could tell not only, think about what's more valuable. I know you bought the Dark Knight DVD. This view of the customer, because you're capturing all this activity data that's much more nuanced, and then you can market to them with much more specificity and better results. Another example, increasing patient compliance. I thought this was an interesting use case for tomorrow. There's a nonprofit in Redwood City called Hope Lab, and they're founded and funded by Pam Omidyar, the wife of eBay's founder, and their whole mission is combat teen health problems using technology. And so they're going after the childhood obesity problem. This is turning into an epidemic and leading to all sorts of follow-on issues around diabetes and heart disease and things like that. And so what they did was they built an activity monitor called the Zamzy. It looks like a USB stick. The kids plug it onto the belt, and they run around all day, and at the end of the day, they plug it into the USB drive. And then it uploads all their activity data. And then for every 10 minutes that they spent in a certain exertion level, they earn points. If they do over an hour, they get stars. Certain points are double points days. And then I can see my daily average, my lifetime. It's like a little quantified self for kids, right? How much am I exercising? But then I have got a bunch of goals around that. I've got all these challenges up top and badges that I can unlock by hitting various milestones. I can level up in the community. I can share that to the rest of the community. I can take my points and spend them on virtual goods to customize an avatar. That's my representation here. Or on parent-funded dollar value stuff like Amazon gift cards or Angry Birds plush toys. And by doing this, using these game mechanics to incent these kids to get out there and be more active, they just did a 6-month study with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. They showed a 59% increase in physical activity, which is equivalent to them doing push-ups nonstop for 45 minutes a week. Slowed the gain of bad cholesterol, helped control blood sugar levels. And so all this, if you think about it, like here's these kids volunteering all this information, all this data, plugging in every day and providing. Hope Lab now has this great data set that they can use all about these users. And again, they have a currency that they can use to get even more user-submitted data. And I like this example a lot because it's kind of one of those eat your vegetables type problems, right? There's all these things you want people to do all the time that aren't necessarily things they want to do, like getting these kids outside and exercising. And there's so much, the feedback loops are kind of big and not that interesting. If I want to lose 5 pounds and I go to the gym, I don't lose 5 pounds. I got to go to the gym for a month. And in that month, there's all these opportunities to sleep in and eat cupcakes and I get immediate gratification from sleeping cupcakes as opposed to the long delayed gratification of being 5 pounds slimmer. And so then what do you do in the interim to get people staying on the path? And that's what gamification can provide, is that feedback and reinforcement all along the way to keep people on the path to longer term gains. And then Craft Canada. So here's a company that wants to co-innovate with their customers, right? So they built this community up in Canada called First Taste. And I pulled actually their screenshots because I thought they were really good. Welcome to Craft Canada, a rewarding place to dish, post, and share with other food lovers and gain rewards along the way. Try our new products and be the first to tell us what you think. So here they are, like giving customers access to things they haven't released yet, early concepts, and getting their feedback on them. See the latest recipes first, earn points for cooking, rating, and sharing, and then climb the leaderboard, earn points. So you're building a reputation in this community, and that reputation then gives you access to more interesting stuff. You get to be kind of the premier first taster, and you get first dibs on any new product feedback that they want. And then finally here, you've got redeem for things like coupons and offers, first taste merchandise. So this is the what's in it for me. What do I get out of this aside from the reputation in the community? I get all this stuff, but then I also get this, this status. And this is something I was talking about with someone earlier. There are all these, especially in kind of data collection communities, how do you get people motivated on the long term to do these things? And one of the ways is you let them develop a reputation for being a quality contributor, and having that reputation provides some meaningful value in that community. The last example I'll show, which actually aligns very well with the vision critical example, is a company called Eloqua. They're a marketing automation company recently purchased by Oracle, and they have a customer community called Topliners. And so here's a community where the customers, employees, and partners all come, and they answer questions, and they share best practices, and Eloqua seeks feedback, and they wanted to build reputation into this. Number one, as a way of letting people build out their own careers, in this case. So if I'm an Eloqua expert, that's where people are going to come look at the top of the leaderboard, but also as a way of driving quality content and quality contribution. So here we can see in the upper left, I've got a leaderboard showing who's contributed the most points. This is basically the quality leaderboard on Topliners. If I mouse over Nick's name, I can see his current points, his current level, and the badges he's earned recently for hitting various milestones. And you can see he was actually the first Eloqua ninja there, which is the top level they had, and he hit it so fast they had to add another level up above called Rockstar. And then this is his profile page, and so we can see his stats, all the different badges he's unlocked, and if we go look, we can see the details. A lot of these initial ones are about onboarding onto the community, but then after that, they become about anything from testing new products to contributing your feedback to submitting quality content that other people like and rate highly. And so by doing this, these guys, they deployed this in July, and so their number of registered users had been growing 30% a month for all time. But you can see that the active users was actually flatlined. Then they turned on gamification. They saw an immediate lift upon introduction. They also saw an increase in support call deflection. They saw more people answering each other's questions online. They saw more people being willing to contribute data. And they saw that as prospective customers came to the community and saw this vibrant, engaged community, that they were much more likely to buy after that. So that's it. That's all I got. I'd love to answer any questions around this topic. Thank you. I got a question back there.
Nice presentation. How do you incentivize people with something meaningful in emerging markets?
I heard meaningful and?
In emerging markets.
In emerging markets, yeah. So meaningful, it's a great word to use, right? We always talk about providing meaningful value, because whenever we as humans engage in any kind of system, we always ask either implicitly or explicitly, what's in it for me? And there better be a good answer to that question, otherwise I might engage for a short period of time, but it can't keep me there. And so when we talk about meaningful value, you know, kind of on the bottom of that tier is like dollar value stuff. That's easy, like gift cards and products and stuff like that. There are a lot of things above that that people actually care about. So they care about status in a community, like the Boy Scouts, the military, your jobs. You know, if I go to somebody and it's like senior VP of whatever, and I say, look, I'm not changing anything else about your job, your responsibilities, your salary. I'm just crossing the senior off your card. Like, how does that make them feel? It makes them feel you haven't taken anything away from them except for, like, you know, one word. And every day there's a new deal at noon. And there's a limited quantity of that deal. And so everybody's in there kind of fighting in the scrum for the deal. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. If you spend $10,000 with the Guilt Group, you become part of the Guilt Noir Club, you level up, and then they open the doors for you at 11:45 every day. Costs them nothing, right? They're just opening the gates 15 minutes early for a select group of people. It means everything to those people. It means they get access to any deal that they want. Lady Gaga's fan club. Let's say we're all her top 100 fans, right? I know you are. So, and she gives us the option. I'm either going to give you $100 or insider access to my tour diary that nobody else has. I can guarantee you the top 100 fans will take the insider access to the tour diary over the $100, right? It has that much meaning to be like the one who gets let behind the velvet rope, who has the exclusive access and gets to share that to the world and be the hero. So I don't think it's kind of an intractable problem. I think there's lots of interesting things you can do in normal markets or emerging markets to provide things of meaningful value. It really is just understanding your consumers and what they find of value.
How do you incentivize a 17-year-old kid in India to do something?
So that's the answer to the question is I don't know what motivates a 17-year-old kid. Once you find that out, once you know, is it airtime minutes? Is it getting to meet a Bollywood star? Is it getting to be the CEO of a company for a day? I don't know. So that's what you need to understand, right? And then apply that proper incentive to your program. It's going to be different for everybody. Great. Any other questions?
Another one here and over here. Do we have more than one mic? Which way are we going?
We're stuck in the middle. There's a question right there. Yeah.
I'll see how far I can throw this or how fast you can walk over. Hi, Lisa Cortate. I really liked your example around increasing patient compliance, and I can see where that would work really great with kids. So what if we're dealing with a 60, 70-year-old man who really could care less about tokens? How do you look at gaming and motivating folks that you need to improve their diet, their exercise, their compliance with their cholesterol medicine?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a lot of people have been trying this in various ways in healthcare, and all the new startups like the Fitbits and the Basis and the Nike Fuel Band are all trying it. Medication adherence compliance is really interesting. And there's several techniques you can use to try these things, right? If the person's not intrinsically motivated, one of the things we often use is teams or peer pressure, right? If I'm part of I'm going to pull it back into like an employee example for a minute. If I'm part of a business unit and we all have to go through our compliance training by a certain date, and if you basically make it so that if the entire team gets it done, the entire team gets some benefit, and if anybody blows it and lets the team down, the entire team loses, that peer pressure is an amazing motivator to get people to do these kind of eating your vegetables type things. And so that could maybe potentially work in that space. I know there's issues around like community in that kind of aspect, but people have done studies. Telefonica did something. I can send you a link to a program called Movipill, Movipill. It was like a mobile gamification app, really simple. Basically, you got points for taking your pills within a 10-minute window on either side of your time, or an hour window, or nothing after that. And then they just had a really simple anonymized leaderboard. And that alone was enough to drive these older patients that were on meds to take their stuff on time because they knew they were being compared every week to everybody else.
One more question, because I know you walked all the way over here to get your hands on that mic. Go ahead.
So my one question is, how long do you think it'll be before the biggest players in the world, such as Facebook, Twitter, start to offer gamification within their branded communities?
Yeah, I don't see that happening, actually, right? Those guys, they have enough interaction as it is. I think they're trying to drive more quality interaction and more time spent. And they already have kind of inherent implicit gamification, like how many followers do I have and how many lists am I on? Like anywhere where there's a number, then people are trying to game that number and increase it. But I don't, we've been working with those guys for several years and don't see them actually doing it.
Thanks.
Sure. Thank you guys.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Just sit back there.